Hello and welcome back to Aubrey Books and Coffee. Please grab your favorite beverage of choice and join me. It's the end of January, you guys. Hooray! We made it. If you live in the Midwest like I do, that means lots of snow. There's been temperatures that have gone as cold as not even 0 degrees. And there's also been temperatures like today where everything's now melting because it's over 40 degrees. Welcome to the Midwest. Well, we're going to go ahead and review all 22 of these books. And at the end, I'm going to give you a little bit of a change up and surprise. My husband that I mentioned several times throughout the year will actually join us and give his brief review of his few books that he finished for the month. And I'm going to see how that goes, if you guys like it, if he likes it, and maybe start doing that on the review months because he has totally different tastes than me, obviously. So for those of you who maybe have tastes more like his with horror and sci-fi and things like that, you'll enjoy getting to see his perspective on books too. It kind of broadens our, genres that I review here. So without further ado, let's get going. First, I ended up finishing Love and Other Disasters. Now for this one, I gave it a 2-star. I really wanted to like it more. It seemed like it was going to have such a cute setting. It was a cooking reality show. There's been several books I've read on this now that have cooking reality type of, device for a romance. The characters were lovable and flawed, and I did enjoy reading about them, but there was so much of the book that was just repetitive and predictable, and it just kind of took away from me. So I ended up only giving this a 2-star. The next one I did was The Book of Living Secrets. Now this one I gave a 3-star. It was weird. In a word, it was weird. But not necessarily a bad thing. I did enjoy the ride. It was crazy. I don't want to say much to give much away except to tell you that the ending I did not see coming. And whenever it happened, it was kind of a what? So I'm hoping another one's going to come out, and I will pick it up if it does because it left me hanging there and I did enjoy it. The next one I finished was In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife. Now this one I knew was going to be kind of a mystery thriller, and I knew it had to do with a high school reunion. I really enjoyed seeing these group of friends, and it kind of flashed backwards in time and gave you present day information, and I really enjoyed the whole dynamic that happened with all of these guys. So I do highly recommend it. I gave it a 4-star because it was unique and enjoyable, and I thought I knew for sure what had happened. I was not right. And so the twist at the end actually is what really cemented it for me as a 4-star. Then I finished The Cruel Prince. I'm so glad I ended up liking this one. I gave it a 4-star. I can't wait to continue with the rest of the series. I know it's been around for a while, and Holly Black is I'm slowly starting to really like her and see what all the hype is about. So I'm excited to pick up the next one whenever I can put it on my TBR, and I'm glad we had this last month, the newest book of hers that came out that still follows this world. So I'm super excited to get caught up and pick that bad boy up. Then I finished Night of the Raven, Dawn of the Dove. This one I gave a 2-star. It was slow, it was repetitive, and I have a much more thorough review in the November Once Upon a Book Club book box video. Feel free to check it out to see exactly why. Then I finished The Light Pirate. I gave that one a 3-star. It was very dystopian. I had an idea it was probably going to be sad, and it sure enough was. It did feel kind of like you would start to see like maybe it's going to be okay, and then because it's a dystopian world, it's not. So just expect to walk away feeling kind of sad, kind of heavy, but the very, very end was also very sweet. So that's what made it kind of go up to that 3-star for me when I normally don't like the books that make me so sad. Then I read Heartless. That one I gave a 4-star. It is the Queen of Hearts kind of retelling. I really enjoyed it. I thought the characters were very dynamic. They were very well, I wanted to say drawn. They were very well written, because you just could totally see these characters developing. That being said, I understand that the author was needing to get the Queen of Hearts to be someone that we hated, but because we liked her so much for so long, the decisions she started making at the end felt like, she's smarter than this. Like, this is stupid. And so it got to the point where towards the end, I'm like, you know what? I don't even care. I know that the author has to make her a bad guy, and that's fine, but I don't even care. So I think it would have been a 5-star for me, except a lot of those decisions at the end were just ridiculously stupid decisions. And you just knew, like, anybody that was in that situation would know what would happen. So that kind of took it away from me, but obviously not too much, because it was still a 4-star. Then I read Girls Made of Snow and Glass. Now, this one was a 4-star, and it was my personal book club's choice, and we had a great time with it. And it was a retelling of Snow White. That being said, unlike Heartless, the author decided not to play into all of the exact same themes and tropes of Snow White as we know her. So it ended up being an enjoyable ride. And the ending was not one I saw coming, and it was sweet and it was wonderful, and I really enjoyed it and highly recommend you guys pick this book up if you haven't already. Then I finished The Coldest Girl in Cold Town. And this one I gave a 5-star, you guys. And I am so glad, because the book was gorgeous. And you know, I don't keep them just because of that, but I love when I can add them to my shelf. And I loved it because it was a unique story with the vampire mix in it. It had a very slow burn love, which I also like that trope. It had some horror, it had some thriller, and the ending wasn't what I thought it was going to end up being. And so I liked it. It was just a nice little pleasant ending. And so I highly recommend you guys pick this up if you haven't yet, or listen to it on audiobook, because it's well done on audiobook as well. Then I read Assassin's Apprentice. That one I gave a 4-star. I love Fitz. I feel bad for this poor boy. I love the relationships he has with the dogs that he comes in contact with. I know it sounds silly to say that, but they play a bigger part than you'd think. You have to read it to find out. If you've already read it, you know. And I did. I loved his journey. I loved his story, and I'm excited to pick up the next one next month. Then I read The 10,000 Doors of January. For this one, I gave it a 4-star. It started off so slow and kind of strange and convoluted that I was really worried I wasn't going to like it. And then as you got going, you started seeing it's a multiple timeline situation. Okay, so when I was able to wrap my noodle around that, I started looking at it through that lens. And as the character developed, January, you really start to like her and care a lot about her and the people that are with her on her journey. And it ends up being really sweet. There's a bit of a love story in there. There's, you know, wanting to find her parents. It's a heartwarming story, and you really have to make it all the way to the ending to truly appreciate this book. I think anybody that stopped midway, or, you know, even just right before the ending, I think they would have made it a higher star if they had finished it. So just know, if you're getting into it, it's gonna have to be a commitment, but push through and it'll be worth it at the end. Then I ended up finishing Salt and Sugar. I gave this one a 3-star. A full review of this will be coming out next month on the 17th of February, so stay tuned for that. Just know it's a 3-star because it was a decently cute read, but it didn't blow me away. And the rest you'll have to wait for the video. I know, shameless plug. Then I finished Cinder Nanny. That one I gave a 2-star. I wanted to like it. It had that super cute cover. I tried, and I love any kind of Cinderella type story. I loved the whole concept that the author was going for, of this girl basically isn't qualified to be a nanny, but she's doing it anyway to help her sister's medical bills. And she meets this Duke Prince type guy, and they tell you all that on the back of the book, so no spoilers there. But unfortunately, there weren't any twists. Like everything was extremely predictable. Everything was kind of repetitive. It was should I like him? Should I tell him? Should I ignore him? Should we just be friends? And it went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth the entire book without any kind of real twist. So for me, it was just kind of a letdown. I really wanted more. Then I finished Storm and Fury. For that one, I gave it a 4-star, and I am so relieved because you know I love Jennifer Armentrout. Now, I will say her Blood and Ash series, I think, is much better. This one's quite a bit slower paced, and just the characters aren't quite as fleshed out as she does in the From Blood and Ash series, but it was still very, very enjoyable. I loved her, enemies to love with Zane and the little twists that are in there for Trinity. And I don't want to give anything away, but it's worth it. And you even get surprised with some visits with demons and things like that. So she did keep it interesting, and I'm definitely picking up the next one in this Harbinger series. Then I finished June Reimagined. For this, I gave it a 2-star. Again, something about these romances that are paperbacks that came in the Scribbler boxes, they're just not making it for me. It was extremely repetitive, at times very dull. I got to where I just didn't care what June was going to do. I didn't care about her friend Maddie. I didn't care about the guy Lennox over there in Scotland. Like, I really didn't care. I just did not care. My favorite parts were when she was in the bar. I mean, like, that's the level there. So it just wasn't for me, but you might like it, so feel free to pick it up. Then I finished Vespertine. This one I gave a 3-star. I thought it was a very cool plot. I love that she's a nun. I love that she can see spirits. I love that she wanted to save her, convent. And so she released this entity, and that she and this revenant end up having a relationship through the whole book while they're trying to kind of save the world. And just their back and forth is really cool. If you've ever read Jim Butcher's Dresden series, at some point, he kind of has a similar situation with an entity that resides within him. I don't want to give anything away. And their relationship is actually very similar to this. And so for me, it was also a little bit of nostalgia to see somebody else doing this kind of thing. And so I really enjoyed it, and I highly, highly recommend it. It's a good read. Then I read Warstorm. This one I gave a 3-star. I'm so disappointed. This is the last one in the Red Queen series, and I know there's been, I think, a novella and stuff, since then that I need to read, but this is the main ending, and I'm disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. There was a whole lot of politics, and obviously it was a war situation, so there's a whole lot of detail with that. I guess I really like endings where it feels satisfying. And for me, it wasn't satisfying. For me, it felt like a reality ending. Like, if this was real life, this is probably how everything would end. This is probably what would happen with all the characters. But I didn't want that. I wanted fiction. I wanted to have a bow on the end there. And so I just wasn't satisfied with it. So it's not that it wasn't well written. It just wasn't my kind of ending. And so it only got a 3-star. But I am glad that I read the series, and now I know. And then I read The Measure. For this one, I gave it a 3-star. Again, such a cool idea that this box appears on your doorstep. It's got a string in it, and if you look at it, you can measure it to see exactly how long of a lifespan you're going to have. And the whole implications that happens, because this is all over the world. And so you get to see what society does, how they start treating people different if they're called short string, how there's some professions that they say you can't do anymore, like you can't be on the front lines for the military if you've got a short string, because obviously you're going to die soon, and they want you behind a desk, things like that. And also colleges who will reject you for wanting to go and get a PhD to be a doctor because you have a short string. You probably won't live much past your college, so why should we put that into you, that effort into you? So things like that, things you never really would have thought of before. And then, of course, relationships. Do you really want to date somebody that has a short string so you know you're going to outlive them for a really long time? Do you marry them? Do you have kids with them, but then you know you're going to be a widow or widower? I mean, just all kinds of implications that I never considered before. So you end up following several different couples and groups and how they're dealing with all of this, and it just kind of gives you that resounding thought in your head: would you look? Because you don't have to, so would you even look to see what length your string is, and what would that do to you in your life? So it's very, very interesting. Highly recommend you guys check that one out. Then I read Court of the Vampire Queen. Now this one I gave a 4-star, and oh my gosh, it is straight up naughty. It is straight up smut. I'm not even going to front on that. But I really enjoyed the characters. Katie Roberts put a lot of effort into making you like these characters. They're all individually very different from each other. And there's this whole outside drama going on besides their relationship that they're trying to fight to live and fight for each other. And it really is really fun, and it is well written. It just, so not for children. And just beware. That's all I'm going to say about that. Then I read The Ledge, and that I gave a 3-star. It was good. It, especially in the beginning, it started off so fast and so good. It made me feel cold as I read it. It made me feel on my edge of my seat, which is exactly, you know, the setting of the book and what you want. When it got to about midway, I could see where the author was trying to transition into something, but because of how delayed and bumpy it was, it kind of took away from me a little bit, because it was initially, I thought for sure, a 4 or 5-star. It just kind of took it away. It felt very not, I don't know how to word this without it sounding insulting, because people are going to pick apart my writing too and have at it. I'm not perfect. But for me, it felt like the author was wanting, like, had the starting, had the ending, and was just trying hard to bridge that gap and wasn't sure how to do that. And that's what it felt like to me. I could be completely off. You guys may absolutely love it from start to finish, and good, because she is a good author. It just, for me, didn't quite, the bridging part wasn't quite great. But again, like I said, the beginning was amazing. The ending was really good. Although at the ending, I'm going, no. And so I need to pick up book 2, because this is going to be a trilogy. And so I will be picking up book 2 and seeing why and what do we do now that this ending just happened. So just be prepared that if you get to the middle and it's not so great, it's worth getting through. Then I read Siege and Storm. Now for this one, I gave it a 3-star. This is book 2 on the Shadow and Bone trilogy, of course, by Leigh Bardugo. Book 2, again, has that curse with me where I tend to go... So I think that's maybe what happened here. There's a whole lot of buildup, a whole lot of politics, a whole lot of detail of things, of the kingdom and how that works. And so for me, it just wasn't a great read. Pretty boring in parts for me, honestly, but important things happen. So I'm glad I read it, because now I know and I can jump into book 3. Also, there was a fun discovery for me, because sometimes I'm a little slow. The covers, I will say, on all these books have to do with the underlying theme of what's going on with Alina during the entirety of the trilogy. So there's a reason why the animals on the cover are on there. And I did not realize that until this book. And so it was kind of a light bulb moment for me. So I'm giving that to you. Gift from me to you, so you don't feel silly. Then last but certainly not least, I read Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void. This one I gave a 3-star. It is a Star Wars book, so you kind of know what you're getting when you go into that. But it was good. It was kind of sad because it had to do with her and her brother, and that whole thing was just kind of sad for me. I hated to see it that way, but it was also kind of interesting because this is before we have the, you know, true good guys, you know, bad guys, you know, dark side kind of situation. This is where both sides are being used by the Jedi, and you just have to be careful that the darker parts of the Force don't call to you and suck you in. So it was kind of an interesting, you know, dynamic reading that. But again, just a solid 3-star for me. So moving into the writing rules that I had, I will own up that I did not complete it all. I did do some writing on book 3. I did finish my editing on book 1. I uploaded book 1 onto Amazon so that it's ready for ebook and paperback come March 14th. And I did get a hold of my cover designer, and she's going to be sending me some images soon in the format of what I need so I can upload it onto Amazon. So I am getting forward traction and working on book 2 edits from beta readers. So there is forward progress, just not as fast as maybe I should be doing, but I'm going to be moving soon. So, you know, there's a lot going on right now. Also, I, of course, am doing the health aspects where I did the Nesta Archeron stair challenge. I ended up doing 1,200 stairs this month. Hooray! So I now have 8,800 stairs to go, but I'm getting there, right? Then, of course, I also did the Lord of the Rings mileage challenge. And for this one, I ended up walking this month 82.5 miles because, of course, I walk steps and then it has to be translated into miles. And so I have left 1,267.5 miles. I feel for Frodo, man. He had little bitty legs. I don't know how he did it. Now, that being said, there was a whole week and a half there where I had this horrendous head cold, and so that, of course, set me back quite a bit. But I'm still proud of what I did, and without even, really meaning to, because I just added this extra exercise into my life, and I tried to be a little better about tracking my calories. I have lost 9 pounds this month, so I am super excited about that. That's a step in the right direction. I don't care if it's even 1 pound. I just want every month I can tell you guys that I'm getting a little bit smaller and a little bit healthier. So now it's time for our fun visitor. Okay, so let's have our special guest, Mr. Ryan Aubrey. Woo!
Hello, hello, hello. I don't normally obviously do this, but I thought I'd come and share a perspective on some of the books that I've enjoyed reading.
We appreciate that.
The first one was The Deep by Nick Cutter. I was really excited by this because the description I read said it was Lovecraft meets The Abyss, the movie from the 90s. Unfortunately, it didn't really hit that for me. I give it maybe 2 stars. Part of it was the author's style. It was just a little bit slower than I was expecting. A very slow-paced book. The whole book takes the place over about 2 days.
Oh my gosh.
It felt kind of flat. There wasn't really a resolution, which isn't uncommon with Lovecraft books, but it kind of felt like what was the purpose in reading that?
Yeah, I get that. So it's one you're going to make me read whenever it's a rye pick, isn't it?
No, that's going straight to the pile. That is going straight to the pile.
Okay.
So if anybody wants this when it comes time, it's in her stack. The second one is really, really highly regarded. It's part of the Tor Essentials line. It's Spin by Robert Charles Wilson. It's very highbrow sci-fi, but without the needing to have lots of scientific knowledge. There's not a whole lot of $30,000 words in there that you have to worry about.
Thank goodness.
It kind of takes place starting yesterday, like just in the recent past, and ends about 40 billion years in the future.
Oh my gosh.
But it's okay because it's the same people.
How did they live that long?
You'll have to read it and find out. It is the first part of a trilogy, so I'm excited to move on to the next one. Very good, very enjoyable. Like I said, very big ideas, but at a very accessible step. It also was sold for me because it has an introduction by John Scalzi, who wrote the Kaiju Preservation Society.
Yay, we liked that one!
Which was also great. I would give this 4.5 stars. Mm. The only reason I wouldn't give it 5 is because I don't know I'm going to go back and read it again.
Okay, that's fair.
But I'm definitely going to get the sequel and possibly the third one. Very highly recommended if you at all like science fiction or things that deal with not really time travel, but time travel.
Okay.
And the third and last one I have was Parasite by Mira Grant, which was a present from my wife. Really enjoyed this. This was a surprise. I mean, it was on my list because it sounded interesting. 5 stars. I've got the sequel over there whenever I get to it. This will be on your list. It is...
Spoilers!
Medical sci-fi thriller. Not really horror like Walking Dead or anything. But the premise is in the very near future, like a decade from now, science has gotten to the point where we have parasite in all of us used for medical treatment, and they're genetically engineered tapeworms. Don't have to take insulin, don't have to take vitamins or medication. They're customized for each person to give them what their body needs.
Okay.
Well, obviously things go wrong because we're not
Yeah.
supposed to have parasites living in us. Some twists I didn't see coming, some that I did expect.
I like that.
But yeah, it kept me guessing, and it's fairly quickly paced. Easy read. Has, again, some scientific terms, but they break them down because the main character isn't overly into science, so everything's explained for the reader, and it's quick. It's a very quick pace, kind of like James Patterson books.
Okay.
So the chapters are longer, but the pace of it's very quick. 5-star, highly recommend, even if science fiction isn't really your thing. And yeah, I can't wait for the second book to come out.
Now, when you said that the science is easy to understand, do they break it down like a Michael Crichton kind of thing, or easier than that?
I would say probably easier than
Oh,
that.
thank goodness. Because Jurassic Park I loved, but some of that science stuff was like really intense.
Yeah, no, the main character is, well, I don't want to spoil too much of that. But, intellectually, we'll say a late teen.
Oh, okay.
So she doesn't understand much about genetic engineering or this and
Yeah.
that. So a lot of that's explained to her as the story goes on. So you get a lot of the big words, but then, oh, yeah, you don't know the big word means this.
Okay.
So,
well, good.
Very good entry point.
All right. Well, thank you. Is there anything else that you want to add?
I don't think so. I hope to return again with some more books.
Yes.
And hopefully, maybe some that are better reads than the last couple that I gave you.
Please. The recommendations sometimes are kind of...
Well, thank you much, and thank you for listening.
Absolutely. And let me know, please, that you enjoyed seeing him so we can have him back more often.
Or not.
Please like, subscribe, and send your friends. Thanks, guys.